Hi, everyone. Today I am continuing the discussion on GALES. As a reminder, GALES stand for Gremlins, Assumptions, Interpretations, and Limiting Beliefs. So today's focus will be on interpretations. So, what are interpretations? Interpretations are just thoughts. They're the conclusions that automatically arise in response to a situation. The thoughts can be about oneself, about the other person, or the situation itself. So, it's really about the story that helps us reach a conclusion. And let me repeat an important point here. They're automatic. So many of us have the goal that we never want to experience misinterpretations ever again. However, we're setting ourselves up with this goal because the brain is the brain and it's going to think whatever it wants to think. For others, we are convinced that interpretations are fact. I know what they're thinking about me is an example of an interpretation. But how do you really know? Do you have the capability of mind reading? What facts, what data do you have to know that the interpretations are true, really true, not fuzzy kind of sort of true, but actually factually based? So, let's review some examples related to interpretations that we can make regarding feedback and communication, specifically how interpretations maintain sustained burnout. So, for example, you email or you text someone and they don't respond within X amount of time. And you eventually conclude they must be upset at me. I did something wrong. Or another interpretation could be they're just so irresponsible and rude. Another example, their tone was off, and you conclude they're mad at me or they're rude. And sometimes interpretations, even about very different situations, can the same. They can get very, very repetitive regardless of the situation. Another example, I'm getting feedback. Therefore, it means I'm not doing well, that I'm not as capable as other team members. Now, mind you, not everyone gives helpful or constructive feedback, but nevertheless, we quickly conclude that feedback means that others are thinking that we are not capable enough, competent enough, as strong enough as other people. Another example could be when you're not getting any feedback, and an interpretation, a conclusion could sound like, I'm not doing anything noteworthy. And again, please remember that some people are terrible at giving feedback, but yet the conclusion is that you're sure that you know what the other person is thinking about you. And it's usually something negative and critical. Now, think about how these interpretations impact feelings. Well, it doesn't feel good. Interpretations can lead to many things such as self doubt, anxiety, shame, guilt, even, and so much more. And then think about what happens to our behaviors, our actions, when we have a negative interpretation that leads to these specific tough, heavy feelings. Is this loop motivating and inspiring? What these types of interpretations do is that they make us work more, work harder, overextend ourselves, not set boundaries, and so much more. And this is all certainly part of the burnout cycle. Interpretations need to be fact checked. For example, how do I know this to be true? How do I get the information to help me validate or invalidate the thought? Interpretations can lead to pressure on oneself, a sense of urgency, and also self doubt, as I said before. And the majority of times, there are little to no facts verifying that these thoughts are actually true. So if you're going to feel something which that impacts your behavior, let it be about something that is actionable, something that is true. not one what seems to be true because of the intensity of the thought and the feeling. Now, let me give you another set of examples related to team building and networking, which is my favorite or not. So, the first example, that interaction felt awkward. Therefore, they must think I'm weird. Or, they didn't seem engaged or interested. Therefore, I have to step up my game. I have to be more interesting and try harder the next time. The next example, the conversation didn't flow and I should have handled that better, meaning I don't know what to say or I didn't say the right thing. How do you know, again, what the other person is thinking? Is it possible that some of what you felt and observed in the interaction also had much to do about the other person than it did about you? In summary, interpretations are automatic thoughts that come up to help us find meaning in a situation. It aims to explain why something happened or why something felt a certain way. And it totally makes sense why the brain wants to make a quick conclusion because it's trying to figure out things in a split second. But these conclusions may not be factual. And a lot of times when we do some fact checking, they're actually not. Finding facts means that you can actually work on things and create action plans. If there are no facts to support the thoughts, then what do you really need to work on? Maybe the one thing that you do have to work on is on fact checking the automatic thoughts that are popping up in your beautiful brain. In other words, developing a different relationship with your own thoughts, especially when we talk about gremlins, assumptions, interpretations, and limits. So that's all for today on interpretations. Next time, I'll say a bit more about assumptions and how they also help sustain burnout. And remember to subscribe to this channel if you like these videos and want to learn more about burnout, what sustains burnout, how to heal from burnout, and of course, how to prevent future burnout. Thank you.